One.
Greetings. This is Positivologist Lynette Turner, and welcome to the Positivologist is in the House. I invite you to kick off your shoes, take a seat in your favorite chair, your favorite couch, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, your favorite beverage, and join me. This is a show that focuses on living your life from a positive perspective. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have problems and issues and challenges. We all do, myself included. But we also have, each and every day, the opportunity to decide how we're going to spend that day and how we're going to live our lives. And we can do it from a positive perspective. Every one of us has that opportunity. And if you fall down, you find yourself walking into the darkness, know that the light is there and you can walk right towards the light. So I love having guests on the show who share their personal experiences, give us tips on how they have lived a positive life, things that we can learn from and that inspire us. And tonight you are in for a absolutely wonderful treat with my guest, Janet Vernay. Now, Janet and I go back a while. We've known each other for quite a while. I'm going to welcome you to the show. Hi, Janet.
Hi, Lynette. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for being here. I'm so delighted to have you. And so, viewers, just for a little context, some years ago, Janet and I were members of this small group of women who would get together on a regular basis and just talk about life and talk about our dreams and aspirations and what we were doing to get there and how we could support each other. And that was a wonderful time. And I know that even though we don't get together as often as we used to, we are still supporting each other from afar. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm totally delighted to have Janet here tonight to talk to us about her journey and her really, wait till you hear about her book. You're just going to want to run out and buy her book. It's amazing. So I'm going to welcome Janet again, and I'm going to turn it over to Janet for a few minutes to tell us all about yourself, and don't be shy. I know you wear many, many hats, so yeah, you want to tell us about that, and also tell the viewers how they can reach you in case they want to get your book or connect with you, work with you, and I will do it again at the end of the show, but I want to make sure they have a couple of opportunities to know how they can connect with you. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Lynette. Well, I have a very eclectic background. My background is in education, and especially in early childhood, and I spent 20 plus years working with children and teachers, and then I ended up somehow in biotechnology, and that has been an interesting ride, and I've learned so much from it. And due to a 30 plus year chronic lung disorder that is still yet to be diagnosed, I have really become very passionate about health and healing, and that led me to pursue certifications and all kinds of health and healing training, and writing this book and founding what I call Roots to Wellness. So my website is Roots, ROOTS, the numeral 2, wellness.com. And on there, there's a link to my book, to all kinds of other information and blogs. And I've got a fantastic retreat for the ladies coming up in June. So
Ooh,
lots of good
wonderful.
information.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good. So I see that behind your name you have CHC. What does that stand for? And I know you're also a certified health coach. So tell our viewers a bit about what those two things are.
That is actually CHC. That's what it is, a certified health
Oh,
coach.
good. Okay.
And so my certification is from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and learned an abundance of information there. And then I went on to the Hippocrates Health Institute and graduated from their life transformation program. And that was incredible experience, learning about living foods versus raw foods and cooked foods, and the importance of those in our life.
Excellent. In every woman waiting to bloom. Where did that come from, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I have always loved getting my hands in the dirt and gardens, and I don't know, somehow the whole thing started with getting to the root cause of my disease. And so if you think about a tree, and unearthing what's at the root of the cause, and then we can weed out the obstacles and we can nourish the roots, and then we have this vibrant bloom. So if you see the cover of my book, you will see all of that incorporated into it.
We would love to see do you have the cover book with
I
you?
do. Let's see. I don't know. Tell me when you can see it.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yeah, hold it there for a couple of seconds. That's so the imagery is so beautiful. Yeah, oh,
Thank you.
love that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Sometimes you're intrigued by what the words of the book are and combined with the visual, and you're like, I want to see I want to eat up what's inside.
That's right. So when you say that there's a garden in every woman, what I believe is that every person has the potential to bloom from whatever they are struggling with, whether it's a chronic disease or if they're in any kind of stressful situation in their life, they can turn it around and they can bloom. And it's just in there and it's waiting and it just needs to be nourished, and
Mhm. You
soon
know
it
what
will
I
bloom.
appreciate about that, Janet, is that you talk about getting to the root of whatever the issue is, because it seems like so often when you go to Western doctors, and I have nothing against Western doctors, I tend to try to go the natural homeopathic route first, but then I will also go to Western doctors if I need to. But so often it's just like, giving you something to cover up whatever the issue is, instead of, like you said, getting to the root of what the problem is. And it seems to me, if you get to the root of the problem, you have a much better chance of solving whatever the issue is. But in our culture or in our society, it just seems it's so often like, oh, just take these medicines. And
Yeah,
hopefully
very
it'll be
much so.
better, hopefully you won't feel it or whatever. You think that you found that to be the case?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I've sort of coined this new term I call collective medicine. And there's a lot out there. There's Western medicine, Eastern medicine, alternative, complementary medicine, functional medicine, which is probably one of my favorites that I've experienced, integrative medicine. And I call mine collective medicine because I feel like I've taken a little bit of everything and
Right.
incorporated it to fit my life and my body, to help me heal. So I've sort of used all of those different things and built sort of a bridge between my physicians who are Western med docs and my more holistic practitioners. And so I've sort of really built a bridge there for myself. But I do believe that too often, or more often than not, doctors are treating us symptomatically and they're not looking at what is the underlying cause of the high blood pressure or the diabetes, type 2 diabetes. What is triggering that in the body, and how can we resolve that without just suppressing it with some type of a medication.
Right, right. And I find more and more people are going, or at least giving alternative approaches a chance, because sometimes it can be more effective, or at least work in tandem with the Western medicine. And you named all these other different kinds of medicines. I see another book there, Janet.
Exactly. Yeah,
Lots of
absolutely.
rich information out there. So I know that your book is written based on your personal experiences.
Mhm.
Would you share with the audience what happened to you, what was happening to you, and what that I often call it, there's an aha moment where you were like, you know what, I need to take some control here. I need to try some different options, and lo and
Mhm.
behold, it works for you. Thank goodness. So, and I think people out there can probably learn from hearing about your experience.
Sure. Well, I spent probably, and I'll try to make a very long story short. I spent a lot of years as a child being pretty sick. I mean, I was on antibiotics off and on chronically. So I really wasn't a very healthy kid to begin with. And then when I was around 21 years old, I went out for a run trying to be healthier and just could not breathe right. And so I ended up going to see a physician, and and this was after spending a week with my lungs not feeling quite right, and they diagnosed me with a bronchitis, and I began taking more antibiotics, and it just never went away. So it kept getting worse, and they clinically told me that I looked like somebody with cystic fibrosis, which is pretty serious. And in 2009, I've been in many studies, and I have seen every specialist under the sun, being evaluated for, allergies to mold, Behçet's disease. I've had my entire CF gene sequenced. I've been through the gamut of testing, and finally I was one of 100 patients in the country that was accepted to the Undiagnosed Disease Program at the National Institutes of Health. And they only accept 100 patients every year. And I spent an entire week there, very much like the television program House. And I had, yes, although I have to say that the lead doctor on my case was nothing like House. She was actually very nice. And we ended up, I had a team of 50 doctors there, and they studied me from head to toe. And they still could not come up with a diagnosis. And that was my aha moment, because they put me on the train after having had a transbronchial biopsy, and pretty much all the way back, the 5-hour train ride home, I really wasn't sure I was going to make it home to see my family. I was coughing up blood and feeling like I was going to pass out, and that was sort of all of a sudden the noises on the train sort of stopped, and I sort of came into myself and said, enough of this. I'm not going to chase the diagnosis and put my body through this. I'm going to chase the best health that I could possibly have and see if I can get to the root of what is causing the imbalance in my body. And I tried to keep an open mind, because at first I really wasn't sure what the heck Reiki was, or different types of energy healing, or this or that. And I began trying different things, acupuncture, and I worked with an energy healer. And what I discovered was, for me personally, was that I had a lot of abuse as a child. And I think that contributed to feeling stifled, feeling like I couldn't breathe.
So that trauma actually manifested itself in a number of physical ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime we have any kind of trauma to the body, even if it's a car accident or we broke our leg, what's interesting is those injuries, or even the memories of abuse or things like that, they get stored at like a cellular level in the tissue of your body. And even if you think psychologically you've dealt with it, sometimes those things can erupt in you, getting triggered by different situations, whether for me it was whenever, especially a male, was confronting me in a rather conflicting way, like angry or anything like that, I'd get that shoot of adrenaline that went through me that would be like, where the heck is this coming from? So I had to deal with some of that as well. But one of the major things that really happened for me is I was living in a constant state of fear of dying, because I was told that at any time that the infection that was in my lungs could get into my blood system or my bloodstream, and that it could kill me. And so I was dealing with this, is it going to happen tonight or tomorrow or next week?
Talk about stress, the stress level.
Yeah.
That's sort of continually on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard. And I think one of the things that really helped me was I began to take the negative thoughts and turn them into positive thoughts. I started changing my thought patterns. And I said it's kind of like, you ever get that song that goes through your head, and it's like, you just have the verse of it in your head that's like going round and round and round. Well, that's what the fear was like in my head, the negative chatter that just kept going through my head. And so I began to really change the shape of that into thinking more positive thoughts. And at first I had to literally write them down and read them, at different times during the day, before bed and in the morning. And now, some of them I can recite right off the top of my head and, go through them. So it has really helped me to change, the whole attitude of my genes, which I talk in my book about epigenetics, which I'm happy to share a little bit more about. That
yes, that's not a word that rolls easily off the tongue, or that a lot of people say on a regular basis. So.
Exactly. But I like to call it changing the attitude of your genes. And we can do that in so many ways. But basically, everybody's born with this genetic makeup. And, we're born with a set of DNA. And, some might be predisposed for heart disease or type 2 diabetes or cancer or what, and, any of these autoimmune diseases. So sometimes we are set up for these diseases to come to life in our body. And my understanding from science and being around a lot of science and learning from the programs that I've been in is that when we change our lifestyle, when we start changing our thought patterns and we start adding in really good foods to our body and we start believing that we can be well, we can actually turn off the switch that might trigger that heart disease or diabetes or what have you. And so I feel like I am truly healing. I mean, when I went out to Hippocrates, I had gone out on a breathing machine that I was on 20 minutes twice a day. It was a $16,000 machine that helped me to clear my lungs every day, as well as being on a $6,000 medication that I'd be on 1 week a month. Yeah, and it was an inhaled form of an antibiotic. And I'm off all of those things, and I've been off them for over a year now. So it
Uh,
is possible. And so that's what I want to do is I don't want to give people hope. I want to give people the belief that they can make these changes and be well.
and solutions, clearly. You have
Yes.
solutions. And I'm sure everybody's situation might be a little different, but you have a
Mhm.
lot that you sort of cleared the way for people by your experience and by being willing to share your experiences. There's so
Yes.
many other people that you're going to be able to help. So, what
Yes.
inspired you to take this experience that you have, which is really a personal experience, and to write a book?
um, I think it was like in me, like burning inside me. I had to tell this story. I wanted to get it out, and I wanted to be able to offer other people an opportunity to learn that they can make a change in their own lives or in the lives of somebody they love. And I think that was, my primary motivation, and it has kind of now snowballed. The book, I've, done multiple television programs and radio shows and now this and different book signings, and so it's really been exciting to share this work.
Well, it's important work because you're going to help other people to heal.
That's
So what
right.
I would love to do is to walk through, there's like 12 distinct points in the book, and I love that you have very visual, sort of catchy phrases for each of those sections. So
Hmm.
like introduce each section, then have you talk about the bullets underneath and share what made you call that section, what you call it, and what information you can share with the viewers. How's that sound?
Okay. Sounds good.
So the first one we have is joyful, just an ordinary girl.
Well, I just feel like I'm, your everyday person and with a story, and we all have our stories. And I feel like my disease is my gift. And so, in so many ways, rather than looking at it as a negative, I feel like it has brought so many people, wonderful people, mentors, friends, into my life. So I feel really joyful about what it has given me. I feel really blessed that I had this for a reason, and I truly believe it was to be able to share, these ideas and what I've learned with others.
It's such a great attitude to have because sometimes when people have really hard, difficult things happen to them, they just stay in that energy. They just stay in that
Hmm.
energy. Even sometimes if they manage to come out of it, they just keep reliving it and keep going over it. And I'm just like, let it go. Just let
That's
it go
right.
wash over you and just keep moving forward. And
Yeah.
I like how you said just an ordinary girl because to me that also means that, this can happen to anybody. This
Hmm.
can happen to just a regular person next door.
Hmm.
And who knows how many people I know, at least a handful of people who have chronic something, and they
Yes,
just don't know what it is.
that's
It's
right.
kind of mind-boggling considering, how many doctors there are and how much training they do and how much, they try to help or want to know, but there's just a lot. And so, yeah, the ordinary girl could happen to you, it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody, but
Hmm.
your story tells people that there may be a solution, and so they just want to hang in there and see what they can do to be better.
Yeah.
Grateful, my dis-ease, I like that, my gift.
Yes.
You talked a little bit about
Yeah.
that before. Talk
Yeah,
about
which I spoke to a little bit about that. When I say dis-ease, I believe that dis-ease is both physical and emotional. So I think the abuse, the negative chatter that was running through my head, the patterns that I had developed, all of those things are part of creating dis-ease in the body. So it creates illness in the body. And so I am grateful for having it because of all that it's taught me and what I have the ability to share with others.
It's a great focus, Janet. I just keep
Thank
reminding
you.
me. I mean, I try to do the same thing, but it certainly can be difficult sometimes. I mean,
Oh,
particularly
without a doubt. I
it's not, and it's not 100% every day. You know, always upbeat and lively. But I think probably we might have the same experience. That, as I said earlier when I was doing the intro, you might fall down, and that's okay. We're human.
Mhm.
Feel whatever you need to feel, but then get up and just keep moving
That's
forward.
right.
Keep moving.
Yeah, and I think with this disease, I mean, if you think about how long I've had it, and when I was Dr. Clement, who's the director at Hippocrates, when I met with him, he shared with me, he said, it takes time to heal. I mean, you think about how long it took to get sick. And so I still, in fact, through this process, you may hear me cough now and then. So there's still some congestion, but overall, I can't even tell you the difference, from where I was to where I am now, to not be dependent on machines and nebulizers and all of that is just incredible. And my overall energy and vibrancy and everything has been so much better. But I still have some bad days. But like you said, one of the things that I've learned to say to myself is, this too shall pass. And I also, when I'm having a real, hard day health wise, or my lungs have, acted up a little bit, um, I kind of think of it like a wave, and I let the wave come hit me front and center, and I know that it's going to wash back out, and tomorrow's a new day. And,
Yeah, yeah.
so I just try to keep that positivity going.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I can be that way too. I almost like if I'm having discomfort, I go into the discomfort and then come out the other side of it.
Right.
So, have you encountered anybody else out there that has what you have? I imagine you probably tried to find somebody to.
Yeah, no, I haven't. And,
Wow.
I'm working with one of the top um, pulmonologists at Yale, and he too has not seen anybody else with, my specific symptoms or issues. When they went in, they actually took a microscope and they took a picture of my lungs while they were in there. And if you look inside, the lungs themselves look relatively healthy. It looks like wallpaper paste is sort of strewn all through the nooks and crannies of the lung.
Right.
And, where that stuff is coming from, it's almost like Elmer's glue. In fact, when they tried to extract it, it was like sticky. It didn't want to come out.
Yeah.
So, I've seen environmentalists, I've seen every doc under the sun,
Wow.
and,
It's a
nobody can.
mystery.
It is, it's a mystery. That's right. That's right.
Wow. Okay. Third point. Powerful. Unearth and address your root cause.
That's right. I mean, how powerful is that when you can get to what's at the root of the issue? And again, I think that takes exploring so many different things. Looking at, I had a friend or have a friend who had bipolar. She was bipolar with depression, and she was getting her symptoms suppressed with medications, and they were just making her worse, and she started getting cysts and in her chest and in the breast area, and one right after the other, and that was being caused by the medications. And so she sought out an alternative, and she ended up looking at, she got some blood work done, and sure enough, there was an imbalance in the body of like copper and zinc. And once they got those under control and leveled out, the bipolar left, gone. So then she was just dealing with depression, and she went through a series of different things to support that. And she holistically has completely healed herself of bipolarism and depression. So when we get to where the imbalance is in the body, it could be simple as a magnesium deficiency. Um, there are so many different things that can cause our bodies to get out of balance. It could be a stressful job that no longer serves us, or or an incident that occurred that we just haven't let go of. Like you said, you hold on to that negative energy. If we can clear that, and there's so many different ways to do that.
And it sounds like, as you said, it is holistic in a way, because it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. To try to work through all those areas. You said something interesting about your friend taking medication and the side effects. Sometimes I'm just watching TV and I'll see a commercial come on for something. It might be for asthma, but it might say, and it might cause worse asthma, and you might want to jump off a bridge, and you might not be able to, move your left foot. It's like, and what always gets me is the announcer's always saying it in a very soothing voice, like, very nice soothing voice. You might not be able to see or hear, but
Yeah, exactly. And it may cause death. Yeah.
Exactly. Literally, yeah. So,
yeah.
It's kind of mind-boggling, and I could see where even taking some of that medicine, it's like the lesser of two evils, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we've become this instant gratification, situation where we want the quick fix.
Yeah.
And sometimes the quick fix can cause more problems than putting some effort into it. And there are some really simple things, and what I call the roots methodology, to be able to really get your health back and feel great again.
Okay, very good. So number 4, blissful. Weed out your obstacles. Yes, help us. Tell us how to weed out our obstacles, Janet.
Well, first we need to identify what are some of the obstacles standing in our way of healing. And sometimes those things can be we're in a relationship that no longer serves us, or we're in a job we no longer care to be in, or we're we have a particular addiction to something, whether it's alcohol or food or whatever it might be.
Sugar.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a biggie. That's more addictive than cocaine.
I know. I read Sugar Blues. I know. I have to say, I'm in a good place right now. I'm not eating sugar, but that's one of those. I always joke and say I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't take any kind of drugs, although sugar is a drug. That's like the one thing that and it's really hard.
Yes. Yeah, no, sugar is really tough to kick, and there's so much research is come about now with showing that it is more directly related to heart disease and and of course diabetes than the fats in our diet or what have you, which they used to think it was the fats, but it's there are good fats and bad fats. They're not all created equal, but yeah, sugar is a big issue. But yeah, weeding out something like that can be standing in the way of you getting healthy. So we have to it's identify it, it's own it, and then start taking steps to work towards weeding that obstacle out of your way.
And I think owning it is a big part too, because you have to acknowledge that it's an issue or a problem before you can figure out what you're going to do about it.
Absolutely.
And to find support to do it. But sugar, what I find is interesting is people don't take it as a serious issue or problem, right? So if someone was an alcoholic and you were at a party, you wouldn't say, I know you're an alcoholic, drink this drink. But people will say, oh, no, you have to try this one cupcake. You have to try this one pastry. They really don't understand that one thing like that is what can really be the trigger and set you on a course of not so good a course. And then when you stop eating, just like with any addiction, when I stop eating sugar, I have headaches, I'm a little shaky, all the things that you would have if you were, trying to move away from any kind of a addictive substance. So
Yeah, it
I
absolutely.
have something. I have this one thing to deal with. So and we all have
Yeah.
something. That's
Yeah.
life, right?
And a lot of people are replacing like refined white sugars with things like Diet Coke. So you've got your
Yeah,
artificial sweeteners
yeah,
that are
yeah.
going on out there, and you know
Not
they
good for you.
are no, they're horrible for you.
Yeah,
In fact, they'll
yeah.
erode your health. And then a lot of new research is being done on the fact that even if it's a low glycemic sweetener or even a 0 calorie sweetener, that we have receptors on our tongue. And when our tongue senses sweet, it is releasing insulin in the body and basically creating almost the same effect as even eating the real thing. So, in my opinion,
Oh, wow.
skip the artificial stuff, have an occasional, sweet treat, but make it a healthy one. Make
Right.
sure it's a raw honey or a date. Just don't overdo it. One of my favorite desserts, and I'm sure people who are listening to me, who have heard me on other programs, I talk about the caramel turtles that you get in the box, the box of caramel turtles
Yes, I
with,
do.
okay, well, my makeover for that are 3 ingredients. So simple. I use I slice a date in half, take the pit out,
They're so
and
sweet. Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
yep, and then I put the little feet for the turtle and the little head with pecans, and then I melt down a super dark chocolate, and I have a favorite one that has stevia in it called Coco Polo, and I take a dollop of that dark chocolate and put it on there, and then set it in the fridge, and you have got a little delicious caramel turtle. And having one of those now and then to just have a
Yeah,
sweet treat
yeah.
is great.
Well, I like it. Okay, okay, everybody out there in TV land, there's something for you to try.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, fifth tip. Delightful. Nourish your roots to strengthen your core. What do you mean by that?
Well, yes. There are so many different things, and those are the next tips that come along that we'll talk about. But basically, nourishing our body. So now that we've unearthed, we've weeded out. Now we're going to start nourishing our roots. And the more that you nourish your roots, just like a tree or a plant or a seed that you've planted, you're pulling all of those wonderful nutrients up into your core. And the stronger your core is, it supports your foundation for good health. And then that allows this vibrant bloom of health. So that's sort of the visual with the cover of the book.
And nourishing with good food. I watched you on another TV show and you were making meatless tacos.
Yes, yeah. I have this favorite recipe that I brought back from Hippocrates, and of course I did my own thing with it. But basically, I soak walnuts. I dehydrate. So when you soak, you should soak all nuts, and the reason for that is there's enzyme inhibitors on there. It's sort of nature's way of protecting the nuts. But when we soak them, we're releasing those enzyme inhibitors that can cause issues with digestion. So if you want to really optimize that second brain, which is your gut, you soak the nuts and some seeds, and then I dehydrate them in a dehydrator, which makes them crisp again. And then I throw them into a food processor with a little bit of Bragg's amino acid, which is like a gluten-free soy sauce with a little lemon juice and a lot of like chili powder and cumin, so it gives it that taco flavoring. And then I add in pea shoots, sunflower shoots, all kinds of sprouts and greens and, red peppers. And I make a red pepper salsa to go with it. And it's just yum. It's delicious.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's too late for that.
Oh, well, remember I'm a night owl, so I usually don't eat dinner till like 11 o'clock at night. I know, probably
Oh,
the worst things that you can tell me as a health advisor, but
yeah.
my whole life. Okay, so number 6, mindful, positivity, and gratitude. One of my favorite things, of course, both of those.
Of
So
course,
important.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, we did talk a lot about that actually, and that is, like I said, I think I put that as number one for nourishing my roots because I really feel that when we change our thought patterns, we begin to change our health. And one of the things that is in my book, and I also do with clients, is I write them a love letter that's from them to them. And I have one that I've written to myself, and I give them a sample one. And the love letter is basically um, as I would want my life to be, and I write it as if it is, and it's all in positive terms, and I read it before I go to bed every night. And it's the best way to go to sleep at night, because those are the last, they always say the last thing that you read or think before you go to
Yeah.
bed, those are the things that are going to manifest, and those are the things that sort of take root, not to be too into my roots here.
Yeah, I
um,
like it. Yeah.
yeah, but we get rooted in it during our sleep, and so I think it just
Yes.
sets us up
Yes.
for a great day the next day. And in fact, the retreat that's coming up, the 6 seeds to nourish your roots, is what I'll be focusing on at the retreat, and we'll be doing some exercises to practice going from the negative chatter to the positive
Oh,
chatter.
that would be like on top of my list. So, what would be an example of a sentence or two that someone might write if they were going to write this love letter to themselves?
Well, let's see. The way I start mine, that I read every night, is that I live this day in the light, in the love of God, the light of the sun, the energy of the universe, and the great flow of the river. And those
Oh,
things mean a lot to
beautiful.
me, because the sort of the love of God is something that I hold in me. The light of the sun is that beautiful, healing light that flows through me. The energy of the universe is just, it's all around us. It's in the earth, it's in the people, it's
Hmm.
in everything that's around us. So that energy is something that really makes me strong and vibrate at a great rate. And then the flow of the river reminds me that even though I may have something specific in mind, or a plan, or I wanted to go out and do something, but I got knocked off my feet a little bit with this lung thing, that sometimes I just have to go with the flow of life. And sometimes I'm being redirected for a whole different reason. And, more often than not, good things come of that. So, that's sort of my
Oh, that's
beginning. And then,
beautiful.
yeah, and then, I know so many friends that beat themselves up for body image. My nose is too big, or my waist is too thick, or my hips are too chunky, or
Right.
whatever. But you can change that by saying, I am thin and beautiful and healthy. And you say that to yourself over and over and over again. And one of my favorite things that Louise L. Hay talks about in her book, You Can Heal Your Life, she does a lot with mirror work, where you look yourself in the eye in the mirror, and you say these positive things to yourself, including "I love you." And it's so funny, when I first started doing it so many years ago, it was the most freaking uncomfortable thing I think I've ever done. And now I can do it with ease and joy. So
And you know it to be true and you believe it. I've had people do the same thing and they're like, I can't do it. I can't. It's like, you do it enough times, you're going to start to believe it. You'll start to see that in yourself, and then you'll start to
yeah.
feel it, and then you'll start to live it.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
keep.
you can do the lipstick trick too. Take your lipstick, write it right on the mirror.
Yeah.
Remind yourself to say it, or sticky notes here and there.
Yeah. Oh,
Write
yeah.
yourself some love notes and stick them all over the place.
Yeah. No, it works. It's amazing. It
Yeah.
really, really works.
Yeah.
You were talking about people's body image, and I know I read on your website that you said you are uniquely beautiful and made up of your own magic potion. I love that. Everyone
Yeah.
is unique and wonderful in their own way and perfect in our imperfections, and we just need to embrace who we are.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about, being just an ordinary girl, and I finished that with something like something with to do with the magic in me. And I truly believe that when we practice these, unearthing, nourishing, and weeding out, and all of that, that we create magic. We
Yeah,
create
yeah,
health,
yeah.
and it is to me magic. So
When you talk about the rooting up, it reminds me of sometimes you go to root something up and it comes up rather easily. Other times you just have to keep working at it. But
yes.
it's worth the work. to
Yes.
get to the bottom, literally get to the bottom of it. So I have
Yep.
that,
Keep digging. Keep digging.
that dual image. If you keep working on it, then it's going to get easier and it's going to come up a little easier, right?
Yep. And sometimes we have to give things up. We were just talking, we had a conversation today about this, about pruning, that, when you cut things back, when you prune them, sometimes it helps it to grow and you get a fuller bloom to something. So sometimes it means giving up, and that might be part of that weeding out process, that sometimes we need to give up things to bring other things into our lives.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And they get the image too of if you're sort of blooming up at them for whatever reason you start to wilt, then just
Hmm.
nurture the roots, keep nurturing the roots, keep nurturing the roots, and then you're gonna,
Hmm.
in your own time and in your own way, you're gonna
Yep.
blossom, and you're gonna look as probably as different as all the different trees and flowers there are out there because we are, as you said, uniquely different and beautiful in our own ways.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Now we're going to talk about food and nutrition, bountiful. This is a good one because that's another one where I'm not always so good. I travel. Sometimes I travel a lot with my work.
Yeah.
I'm really busy. I don't have the best eating habits. I try not to eat a lot of junk, but I'll, eat popcorn for dinner. I know that's really bad. It's obviously really bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I have to say, we are all human, and we're having this very human experience, and that nobody is perfect. In fact, when I was on another program, somebody said, "Do you ever like eat anything junky?" And I'm like, when I go to Block Island, I have to have soft ice cream. That's like my
That's your thing,
weakness.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my thing. I shouldn't even call it a weakness. That's one of my joys.
Yeah.
Um, but food has played a huge role in my healing. And as I spoke to earlier, there's living foods, there's raw foods, there's cooked foods, and also I want to just to back up a minute. One of the things we learned at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition is that there's bio-individuality, and no one diet is right for everybody. And one man's food can be another man's poison. So, what serves you and your body is not going to be the same for me. Some people thrive more on high proteins. Some people thrive more with good fats in their diet. Some people need meat in their diet. So I don't encourage people to go, one way or the other. I think they really have to find what's right for them and really listen to their body and what it needs. And that's not the sugar cravings talking, Lynette.
I hear you, Dan. I do.
But yeah, food plays a huge role. And I actually grow a lot of my living foods. So I'm a big sprouter. And the other thing I encourage people is don't take it on all at once.
Mm.
Make small changes. So start adding in the good and you're going to weed out some of the bad. So if you can start adding like a green juice in the morning or a smoothie of some sort in the
Yes.
morning
Yeah.
and skip the egg McMuffin or the donut or you know there's a corporation out there that says America runs on, and I won't say the ending of it, but inside I cringe and I say I think America dies on blah blah
Right,
blah. But
right, right.
yeah,
But you
it's
make a good point about the juicing. I juice for myself and my partner, both he and I, and your body just, I put kale in there and spinach and lettuce and cucumbers and banana and
mhm.
avocado and it's carrots for to make it a little sweet, and I can just feel it, my body just absorbing it like a sponge. And so
Oh
that's
yeah.
one way to try to get nutrients in. Because if I don't have time to make a big this or that, I just
Yep.
NutriBullet, and I like it because there's no pulp. Everything gets used up. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it
So,
is. And the smoothies can be a quick fix, but I also tell people there's, juicing. So I'll very quickly juicing. If you're going to juice, don't add fruit because it's going to raise your blood sugar rather quickly. But juicing vegetables, it's like liquid gold to your blood. I mean, it's just like such
mhm.
vibrant health. So, and primarily the key ingredients for me in my green juice are pea shoots and sunflower shoots because they're so full of phytonutrients. They're just packed with vitamins and nutrients, and they've got calcium and they've got um, iron and protein and all kinds of really good stuff. So that
Mm.
to me is like
Yeah,
that's my protein packed morning,
yeah,
juice in the
yeah,
morning.
yeah.
Lots of chlorophyll.
Yeah, and good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next point is beautiful self-care in your environment.
Yes. Well, yeah, there's so many toxins in our world, and so I do everything that I can to reduce that footprint and bring in high quality products and clothing too, believe it or not. Um, there's a book that I read called Killer Clothes, and it was quite the eye opener. But some of our clothes that are being imported from other countries are getting saturated in like formaldehyde before it comes to the States. And
Oh
that
my.
stuff doesn't just wash out. And you think about your skin, it's the largest organ of the body. Our epidermis is so full of pores, and we're like a big human sponge. And so you know what you put on your body, it's just getting absorbed. And the other concern I have is with sunscreens. Some of them are so toxic, and we're putting them all over our children, all over ourselves because we're so afraid of the sun.
Right.
But if you go to Environmental Working Group, which is a nonprofit organization, you go to their site, they've got a list of sunscreens that are much more user friendly, you know, to your body and safer products to use. And in fact, you can even check for like lotions or hand creams and things like that, or shampoos even.
Right.
So yeah, I really work hard to bring as many organic products into my life. And then on the other end of that,
So Janet, are
there's
you able to do that with reasonable prices, or is it expensive to have the healthier products in the house?
it is so reasonably priced in so many ways. I mean, now organic clothing, on the other hand, can get a little pricey. But I've also been learning to source some of that pretty well with, you know, lesser prices. But I'll tell you, my secret ingredient that I use every day, and I swear it's my best beauty secret, is an organic coconut oil. And I buy a jar at the local grocery store. I always get organic, but I buy whatever is on sale. It's usually anywhere between $6 to $10 for a jar. It lasts me probably 4 or 5 months. I keep the jar in the shower I keep a tablespoon, and when I'm done with my shower, before I dry off, I take a tablespoon of it, rub it in my hands, put some underneath my eyes, I rub it all over my body, and then and it soaks the water, so I didn't even get dry skin this winter at
Wow.
all. And then you just pat your body dry, and you know, some people might be allergic to coconut oil, so you can look at, you know, like an almond oil or something
Hmm.
else, but those are a little more expensive. But the coconut oil is so reasonable, you know, for a skincare product. I mean, some people for their lotions are spending $30, $40, you know, for a high quality lotion,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're full of parabens and sulfites and, you know, stuff that is not good to be putting on your
Oh,
skin.
that's a great tip.
Yeah,
Another great tip, Janet. You just keep rolling them out. All
there
right,
you
the
go.
next one, I like the next one too, which is zestful. Put a little wiggle in your walk, so I can guess what this is about.
Oh yes, as we sit here in our chairs. Yeah, it's so important to keep our bodies moving, and you know, you don't have to be the weekend, you know, warrior, or you know, run 100 miles every day or anything, but just get your body moving. If you're working at a desk job, get up, like set your you know, your Gmail calendar or your Outlook calendar for every couple hours a stretch break or a little walk around the office or walk around the building or what have you, just to get your body moving. You know, rebounding on one of those small little trampolines is really good to get things moving in the body. And it's just all of our organs, everything. It's so important to keep our body strong and moving. So, and that's something I've always struggled with in my adult life, is keeping my body going. I tend to want to sit and do creative projects, and I have to
Mhm.
remind myself. And I used to love to dance, so that's one of my go-to things, is putting on some crazy music and, you know, just dancing for fun.
I
Gets
think that's
me
a good
moving.
point. You don't have to go. I know some people, go to a big fancy gym or whatever. I literally will just walk in my living room, or I have a
Hmm.
exercise bike, not the big, heavy, fancy kind, but the old-fashioned little one that I can even lift myself. That I can
Yeah.
lift and bring it into my living room, and I can watch the news. I can read. I can meditate, but I'm still getting exercise at the same time.
Yeah, and
I
even
feel so much better when I do that, and when I don't, because again, when I'm traveling, sometimes I don't have time to do it. I really feel it if I don't.
yeah, and if you go to like the department type stores, or some of these big box stores will have like little tiny handheld weights. Start with the 3 pounders. And I actually, at one point, I had hired this fantastic woman in Connecticut. She's a personal trainer who specializes in people with different illnesses or injuries. And I hired her for 2 sessions in my home, which were not that expensive if you think about it. It was like maybe $70 for each hour that she came. And she gave me a list to go to Walmart or wherever to go pick up, just some essentials like little stretch bands and little handheld weights and a yoga ball. And she showed me like a ton of different exercises to do on them to keep my body toned and fit. And so that you're doing it properly. And just amazing the difference that will make alone. And I even just keep a couple of little handheld weights on the kitchen counter on occasion, and if like I'm cooking a meal, I'll use them then, just while I'm making dinner. So again, little things that you can add to your life to keep your body going is great.
That's a good idea, because I do know as we get older, it's good to do the weights, which I'm not so good at doing. I'm good at the aerobics. I love dancing too. I've always got, I'm dancing in the car, I'm dancing in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite often moving around, but
Yep.
all the different ways to help ourselves stay healthy, whether it's vigorous like that, or whether it's something like doing Pilates or yoga or
Right.
thing. I think.
Yeah, and simple things like doing a plank on the floor is so strength building, and you don't need any equipment to do it. So there's no cost involved. You just use your own body, get down on the floor, get in prayer position, and you're just putting pressure on this part of the body, and then your toes are up, and you plank and you tighten those tummy muscles, and you're strengthening your whole core, and it's strength building, as well as just doing some simple push-ups, which are not so simple for everybody.
I was going to say, it's interesting. I have a strong lower body, but I've never had a really strong upper body, which is why it would be good for me to do some weights, particularly as I get older.
Yes.
Okay, another one of my favorite ones, soulful. Spirituality, love, and creativity. Those all sound wonderful.
Yes. Well, it's funny. In my book, I talk about them as sort of being one to me. I mean, I did not grow up with any particular religion in my life, and I really didn't even know what spirituality was. And it developed over time, and especially with this illness, and the more connected, as I said, I had so many wonderful mentors in my life, and the more connected I got with different types of energy healers, I learned more and more about the energies around me. And I began to think of what I call God as this beautiful energy, this beautiful light that comes in through me. And then I hold that energy and that love of God as love in my heart, in my soul. And then I think how it expresses itself in me is it comes out as creativity. And so whatever the things that people do, whether they have a beautiful voice or whether they are born to be on stage or to create beautiful paintings, or if they're a doctor that can finally stitch somebody back together, or whatever it is that is their gift.
Everybody has a gift. Wouldn't you agree? Everybody has something.
Absolutely. And I think that again, it's this beautiful love, this spirit, this light that comes in that has held his love, and when we embrace that love, then that creativity flows from us just freely. And I think people, when they feel stuck, there's that disconnect going on. And I think the more we can get connected with spirit and be cognizant of that as love in our hearts, then that creativity just flows right out of us. That's my theory.
Oh, I love that. We're on the same page. And I think to really encourage people to explore what that is for them, right? Because it's different. For one person it might be going to Mass every week, if you're a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else, if you're a spiritualist, or last year I graduated from seminary school, so it was thrilling because we studied all the different religions and spiritual paths, and everyone's got a different path, and there's no wrong path. But to
That's
really
right.
explore what that is for you, because I haven't met anyone who hasn't connected to spirit in some way, whose life hasn't been incredibly enriched by that
Yeah.
experience and by doing that. So, I mean, that's what keeps me grounded. That's what keeps me through the difficult and challenging times. Is connecting to spirit. And
Yeah, I actually saw a sign, Lynette, on it was on a church as I was driving to work one morning, and I just absolutely loved it. It said something about go ahead and make plans in your life, but be sure to give God the eraser. And I just thought that that was so cute because again, that's going with that flow. Is
yeah.
Yeah.
We think we know everything, but I'm always turning it over. I'm divinely guided, and I'm being open to what path I'm being guided to take, and I'm always reminded that I can't take a wrong path. It's just a different experience depending on what path I take.
And it's what you make of that experience.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, number 11, resourceful. Outside resources and support. I was thinking about that too. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, that comes back to the collective medicine and and being able to connect with different practitioners. And I think the greatest mentor in my life in that arena was Dr. Bernie Siegel, who I have to give him a
Oh,
shout out because he's been so instrumental and so supportive in my healing and taught me that, the doctor that wanted to take out my lung and dissect it was not the right doctor for me, and that the other doctor who was dictating that my disease was asthma when it clearly wasn't after being going through so many breathing tests, that those are not the types of doctors that I need supporting my healing. And so what I share with my friends and family and people that I've met along the way is that your doctor needs to be your partner, but first and foremost is you are your own advocate. You are the keeper of your health, and it starts and ends with you. So we have many, many resources at our disposal in so many different ways. And what might work again for one person may not for another. Um, and we're getting, with technology and research, we're getting more and more into this personalized medicine, which I find fascinating as well. But at the same time, we need to be able to navigate, whether something's going to feel right or do right. And don't ever, ever allow a doctor to give you, in my opinion, a death sentence. I have a dear, dear, dear friend who has stage 4 metastatic spinal cancer and was told, it's incurable, that this is it. And well, we're well over a year later. Her cancer markers are dropping, and she believes that she can heal, and she's doing so many wonderful, she's pulled from so many different types of medicines to do that, and she's
yeah.
doing phenomenally, and she's built a group of resources and people around her to support that. So I tell people, go ahead and listen to what a doctor has to say, but don't take that as God's word or as,
Right.
the final word, because again, only you can have that power along with whatever your belief may
Yeah.
be.
Great advice again. Okay, and finally, healthful. Bloom your route to wellness.
Yes. Well, what I encourage people to do is basically take all of these things that, we've just talked about and start somewhere. And what I learned in a course that I just took a couple years ago was that, and especially in writing my book, is chunk it. You can look at the big picture, and where you want to be, and you can sort of make that blueprint. But if you do that and think that you've got to take it all on at once, you're going to get discouraged. So chunk it. Take it in small steps. Bring in one thing at a time. Let it happen. Let it become a routine. And then as you keep adding these things, you add one more until it just becomes part of your life. And then again, don't focus on the things that you shouldn't do or that you can't do anymore. Just focus on the good things. Bring in more good foods. Start taking a 5-minute walk a day. practice sitting and being quiet for a few minutes every day. In
It
my
sounds like
way,
just make up a menu that works perfectly for you.
you
So
got that
Janet,
right.
hold up your book again. Our time is up, believe it or not. The hour just flew
What?
by. But show us your book and tell us your website one more time.
Okay, it's ROOTS, the numeral 2, wellness.com.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank
Thank you
you,
so much for
Lynette.
being on the show. I've adored having you, and continued good health. And thank you for sharing all these tips and everything with the viewers. And I learned a lot, and I'm sure they did too.
Thank you
So,
so much.
all my love to you. Mwah!
Take care.
And I want to thank all of you viewers out there in TV land for viewing the show tonight. And I invite you to check me out as well on www.positivebliss.com. This is Positivologist Lynette Turner. I'll see you next time right here again on The Positivologist is in the House. Namaste.